Bitcoin is a lifeboat tossed on a stormy sea, offering hope, our favorite word, to anyone in the world that needs to get off their sinking ship. Those are your words. Can you explain?
If you live in Africa, there's not a single currency that works, that holds its value, and the banks don't work very well. So if you're the Uber driver in Africa and someone wants to give you $50, if they give you $50 of BTC, it's going to appreciate probably 20, 30% a year against the US dollar. And when your local currency loses 10% a year against the US dollar, if you give that, when your currency is collapsing 20% a year, the half-life of your money is 3 years. So whatever I gave you is worthless in 10 years. So if you want to store economic energy, you have to get out of that collapsing system. You can't buy any currency in a collapsing system. You can't buy a credit instrument or a bond in a collapsing system. You can't buy the real estate either, because the real estate is a derivative of the currency, and if no one's got any money in a collapsing economy, they won't be able to pay the rent, and the real estate won't have that much value. So you see this hyperinflation. It's come to Brazil. It's come to Argentina about once every 25 years. Every single currency in Africa has collapsed. The German currency collapsed a couple of times. Most currencies collapse. The most successful currency in the last 100 years is the US dollar. The US dollar has lost 99.9% of its value over the 100 years, and that's the best one. Okay? An acre of land in Miami Beach used to cost $10,000. The same acre of land costs $10 million today, maybe $20 million. So if you do the math, that's north of 7% collapse a year. And by the way, 7% doesn't sound that bad, but when you compound it over 100 years, and I tell you, you're going to start with $1,000 and you're going to end with $1. That's the best it's going to get. Now, if that's the best it gets, imagine what it's like when you lose the wars, right? In Japan, and Germany, they lost a war. In those cases, it's not 99.9% in 100 years. It's 99.9% in 30 years or 20 years. So how do you get off that sinking ship? You have to find a trustworthy bank. Well, there isn't a bank you can trust when the economy collapses. You have to find a trustworthy form of money. Well, the only form of money that's going to hold its value is scarce money. And so what you buy, you know what they bought in the Renaissance? They bought gold and they bought paintings. But then you better be able to get the paintings and the gold out of the country and try to walk through the airport with a lot of gold or a lot of paintings, and maybe you'll get allowed and maybe you won't. So the problem with physical assets as a store of value is that you hold them at the pleasure of someone more powerful than you. Everything you own in the physical world, you own at the pleasure of someone more powerful than you. And if they decide that they don't like you because of your race or your religion, or because you have more money than them, or because you say something they don't like, or you're politically different than them, they just take all your stuff away. And that is the story of history. 10,000 years, 10,000 examples, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of examples, Muslims being disenfranchised, Jews being disenfranchised, the Christians, the Protestants being disenfranchised by the Catholics being disenfranchised by the Protestants. Every place, everywhere, the minority finds that their property is seized at some point. So the issue really is, where are you going to put your money? And the answer is you put it in cyberspace, a bank in cyberspace that's controlled by nobody, that's owned by nobody, that no government can stop, that no politician can interfere with, that no company can corrupt, and that offers you money that's scarce, that 21 million coins, 100 million satoshis a coin. You buy what you want. When it's time to leave, you take your money with you. When you exit the country, when you exit the city, when you exit the state, when you can have it with a custodian, but when you don't trust the custodian, you give it to a different custodian. When you don't trust anybody on earth, you take self-custody. And when you're ready to depart this earth, when you die, you can take the money with you too. If you have your private keys, you can literally take your private keys with you, and you can take it to the grave with you. That is a property right that is absolute and profound and unique in the history of humanity. You've never had that economic right, not in 100,000 years, not in any place, not at any time, not with any other strategy. Every other economic right is a privilege you hold at the pleasure of the ruling class of wherever you live. And when they decide to remove that privilege, you will be impoverished. And I won't go into the details. I say read history. The more history you read, the more examples you will read of that having happened to somebody. And so, I see Bitcoin as that lifeboat. It's available to anybody, anywhere, right? For the first time in history. And that's what makes it so inspirational.
The only use of